Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm U-Zyn. I'm really surprised that I am. My talk is one of the most voted one, and I really like to thank you all for supporting me. And I really did not expect it to happen, but hope I can do a good job over here. So I would like to talk about cryptography today. The first topic is about cryptography, the second is about Bitcoin, and the third one, a short one, is about the bank. So my name is U-Zyn Chua, and I'm not a cryptographer, so I would like to say that first. So if I say anything wrong, feel free to correct me, raise your hand and correct me. And I'm not an economist. So a lot of things I present may not be accurate. I am an IT consultant at Genesis, that's my company. I'm a PHP developer, and I'm also an Amazon Web Services, sorry sponsors, consulting partner, but Windows, Azure, and SoftLayer are good as well. really, I've tried that. Really. I'm a security enthusiast. I read a bit about security, and I do a little bit of hacking myself. And of course, I'm a Bitcoiner. I have a small business. It's called DGTMKT.com. It's a digital market. It is actually a Bitcoin exchange for Malaysia. The reason why I'm not doing it in Singapore is because there's some issues in getting the support of the bank and the e-payment provider to allow me to do Bitcoin over here. But anyway, it is a Malaysia Bitcoin exchange. It's a small business, and I'm doing mainly for fun. So just a quick survey. How many of you are a Bitcoiner over here? Wow, that's a lot. I have about like 10 of you guys. How about those who know about Bitcoin but haven't really gotten to it? Wow, that's like half of the room. Any of you have no idea about Bitcoin? Okay, that's the other, I don't know, 40%? Okay, so thank you. So Bitcoin is a new revolutionary currency. It is a currency perfect for anarchists. If you really don't like the government, you don't like the current banking system, you don't like the current currency system, and you hate that PayPal is charging all these crazy fees, use Bitcoin. You get to be free again. You don't have to answer to anyone. You can transfer money as free as you want. And there are small fees involved, but it's almost negligible. And you can also opt to not pay the fee if you want to. So what is Bitcoin? From Wikipedia, it is a distributed electronic cash protocol and a unit of currency. So there are three keywords over here. Distributed, that means everyone is connected to one another without a central server. There's no boss in this economy. We can all trade freely, and nobody's going to say no, nobody's going to say you have to pay $10 for that transaction. Even if you are transacting $1 million, nobody's going to say you have to pay anything. It is a protocol, so that means there's certain rules that you have to follow. Just to make this whole thing work, there are certain rules, but the rules is just to make sure that the money that you transfer is actually gone from you and is received by the other party. And and it's a unit of currency. That means it is worth something. If I transfer to you $2 worth of Bitcoin, you're actually getting $2 worth of Bitcoin. You can buy ice cream with that. So this is a Bitcoin. Bitcoin is invented by this guy called Satoshi Nakamoto. His name sounds Japanese, but nobody knows who he really is. So that's his face over there, and it's most Bitcoin wiki would put that as his face. He wrote this white paper on Bitcoin, and he is gone since late 2010. He was the developer of Bitcoin, the main client and the main system. And he started the first Bitcoin block. I will explain what block is later. But he started the first block on 3rd January 2009. So Bitcoin is only about 3 years old, three and a half years old, I guess. After that, he's gone. Nobody knows who he is, and he has created this system. He's not the boss. He created it, but he cannot do anything to change it today. All of that is solely governed by the very, very good rule that, the very, very good protocol that he has created. So just a short, quick video on what is Bitcoin. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this video before. It is like overplayed, but just for those 40% of you who have never known Bitcoin, I thought it is a good introduction on what Bitcoin is about.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Compared to other alternatives, Bitcoins have a number of advantages. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower, you can use them in every country, your account cannot be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary limits. Let's look at how it works. Bitcoins are generated all over the internet by anybody running a free application called a Bitcoin miner. Mining requires a certain amount of work for each block of coins. This amount is automatically adjusted by the network such that Bitcoins are always created at a predictable and limited rate. Your Bitcoins are stored in your digital wallet, which might look familiar if you use online banking. When you transfer Bitcoins, an electronic signature is added. After a few minutes, the transaction is verified by a miner and permanently and anonymously stored in the network. The Bitcoin software is completely open source, and anybody can review the code. Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. When everyone has access to a global market, great ideas flourish. Let's look at some examples of how Bitcoins are already used today. You can purchase video games, gifts, books, servers, and alpaca socks. Several currency exchanges exist where you can trade your Bitcoins for dollars, euros, and more. Bitcoins are a great way for small businesses and freelancers to get noticed. It doesn't cost anything to start accepting them, there are no chargebacks or fees, and you'll get additional business from the Bitcoin economy. For your first Bitcoins and more information, visit weusecoins.com.
I guess let's give a very, very quick overview on what Bitcoin is. With that, you should have a rough idea on what it is about. So to move on, I would like to talk what is a currency. We go back to the basics. So what makes a currency? A currency needs to be scarce. It needs to be rare. It needs to be precious. That means if we are using water as a currency, it doesn't really work, because if I sell you water, I say you could have just gone to the river and just scoop water, and that's already worth something to you, and you don't have to exchange your valuable with me, right? So one of the key features of currency is that it has to be scarce, and Bitcoin is that. It has to be secure. That means whatever you own today, it has to be still yours next year or 10 years later. It should not be able to be stolen without your negligence or your permission, and it should be safe with you as a hedge or something. The growth has to be predictable. If you buy 1 Bitcoin from me today and you pay $10 for me, it should not be worth probably like 1 cent 10 years later, but the growth should be predictable, and that's why we can trust the currency. So all these features actually make Bitcoin like gold or silver or US dollar or Singapore dollars, all these as currencies because of all these properties. But how do you make all these properties there? Okay, let's talk about this one. So I mentioned that Bitcoin growth is predictable. So this is as designed, the curve of the Bitcoin, and you can see that the x-axis are the years. So there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins available all over the world. And nobody can change this rule, and it's already a protocol in Bitcoin. And the production is also already laid out over here. Every 4 years, the production is half. You can see that every 4 years, the curve is actually lower, lower, lower. And it will get closer to 21 million, but it will never, ever exceed 21 million. So in that way, the economy will know that there are always 21 million Bitcoins only, and there will never be more. So the growth is limited by that sense. And these are the exchange for Bitcoin to US dollar. This is from year 2010 to current. You can see that it was worth less than $1 for a long period of time. And all these are probably done by the earlier believers of Bitcoin and the hackers and the experimenters. So it was, it used to worth like $1 for 10,000 Bitcoins or something. But today it is worth $15. But this morning I think it's worth about $12. I think it has a big drop just last night when I was sleeping. Yeah, it was peaked at $30-something, $34 I think in May last year. Yeah, and then it went down until less than $5, and then it becomes pretty stable. And then just recently, it's the last 3 months, it went up like crazy.
So what happened to the predictability?
Sorry?
So what happened to the predictability?
The growth of the Bitcoin is still there. We all know how many Bitcoins are there in circulation today. But the exchange is depending on the demand. If a lot of people sell at once, and then the price will go down. If a lot of people buy and then nobody is willing to let go, the price will go up. It's like a normal currency exchange. But the fact that the Bitcoin circulation is all known. There's no doubt how many Bitcoins are there in the market today. We all know that. It's a published fact, and it is growing by 50 Bitcoins every 10 seconds, every 10 minutes. So I'm not sure what happened last night. I haven't read about it. Probably some hoarder was letting go a lot of Bitcoin last night. So it went down to about $10, 10.2 or something last night, and then went back up to about $12 this morning. I think as I'm speaking right now. So of this slide, I'm going to use $15 as the example because I was working on this slide yesterday, and that was the price yesterday. So there are a few problems on currency that it has to be solved. How do we create currency? If Bitcoin is growing at 50 Bitcoin at every 10 seconds, who are those that are actually worth getting them? Should we drop them by a plane, or should it be random by IP, or does the owner get the Bitcoin creation every 10 minutes? That means Satoshi will be richer by 50 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. And that's actually a lot of money. 50 Bitcoins times $15 is about $750 every 10 minutes. That means somebody's getting richer by $750 every 10 minutes. So how do we solve all these? How do we keep the value stable? How do we prevent fraud? If you own a Bitcoin, if you give it away, how do you make sure that it is deleted from your account and it is credited to another person's account? How do we solve all these? I'm going to briefly cover that in a while. So Bitcoin has no central bank, no watchdog, no authority. Nobody gets a say on anything. The only protection Bitcoin has of all these features and fraud protection and all that is only cryptography. Bitcoin is a really big technology creation. But I'm gonna, because of the short time that we have today, I'm gonna briefly cover about 3 aspects that we have. One is the public key cryptography, one is the peer-to-peer network, and one is proof of work. Just a quick overview on what public key cryptography. Anyone doesn't know what public key cryptography is? Okay. It is like okay, let's go back to the basic. Anyone doesn't know what cryptography is? Okay, everybody knows what cryptography is. Okay, public key cryptography is actually a 2-key asymmetric key cryptography. I have a private key and you have my public key. If I send you a data, you can decrypt it with my public key. I encrypt it with my private key, and you can decrypt it. You can verify that it is for me because I'm the only one that owns the private key. But public key, everybody owns it. You can verify that it is for me. So that's how public key works. That's versus the symmetric key. That means I'm encrypting my code with the same key that you decrypted. So, and peer-to-peer network. Bitcoin operates with no central server. Everybody connect to the network, and we share nodes with each other, so nobody can shut down Bitcoin easily or even possibly, unless you just shut down the internet. And proof of work. Proof of work is actually a concept to make mining, to make Bitcoin distribution possible. Okay. Proof of work is actually to make mining difficult. It is purposely there to make mining difficult. Otherwise, all of the miners will be getting 50 Bitcoins easily. So to make it difficult and to make it fair, there's this concept of proof of work. That means you have to do a lot of work to actually get a Bitcoin. Your computer or your miner have to do a lot of work to get Bitcoin. And I will briefly talk about that later on. So here's a quick slide on what public key crypto is in terms of Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, you store your coins in a wallet, just like you would store your currency in a wallet. And this is like a wallet address looks something like this. It is a 160-bit hash in base 58 encoded. It doesn't have to be, but we usually encode it base 58 so that it's shorter, otherwise it'll be a lot of 1 and 0. And if you are free, you can donate money to my wallet, this is my wallet. And you can go and get some money out of it as well, if you can. This wallet, you can generate as many as you want. You will never run out of addresses. You can generate at any time. And you're not entitled to only one address. You don't have to register with anyone. You can generate addresses as you want. And by generating addresses, you're actually generating two different keys. There's a public one and there's another private one, which I own. So if you put money in here, you cannot get it out. I can get it out because I have the private key. And you're free to generate as many as you want. Each one of us, all over the world, is entitled to this amount of address. So it will never run out. Even if you can make really fast, I don't think it will run out. I don't know how many million years. So a quick diagram on what public key crypto is. This is not really in terms of Bitcoin, this is from Wikipedia on public key cryptography. But I thought it would be a good diagram to explain what Bitcoin is, what public key crypto in Bitcoin is. So Alice writes a check that he wants to pay Bob $500. So he would sign this check. Check is actually just an agreement that you want to pay somebody the money. He said, I want to pay Bob $500. He signed with her private key. Bob receives the check. He can bring it to the bank, for example. Or in Bitcoin's case, it's actually verified by the network. You bring it, we just use bank in this case. So he brings it to the bank, this check. And how does the bank know this from Alice? So the bank can verify using Alice's public key that this check is actually signed by Alice. So they can verify that Alice actually says that I will pay Bob $500 and the bank proceed to transfer $500 to Bob's account. So this is what public key is about. And this is more in terms of Bitcoin. It is very, very similar to the diagram over here. Owner 1 is transferring the money to owner 2. So he would sign it with his private key that he wants to pay owner 2 some money. And owner 2 is able to verify with owner 1's public key that he actually wants to pay, the intent is clear. And so on and so forth. So the money can proceed to pass on to other users of Bitcoin without having any central person. All the Bitcoin transaction is public and broadcasted. That means if I'm to pay you 2 Bitcoin right now, the whole world knows about it. There's no secret about that. And there's no worry because the whole world knows that this wallet is paying to that wallet, but they don't know who you are. They only know by your public key. So this public key is paying the other public key this amount of money. And everybody knows about it, but they don't know who you are. So you're still anonymous. With the asterisk anonymous, because there are some people who can track the flow of money and they can determine who owns this collection of addresses. But generally, if you know your security and you know your way around, you can make it really, really anonymous. And this website that actually collects all the all the transactions and collect all the stats. You can actually view it live. Let's do a quick demo over here. Okay. Okay, you can see that this transaction over here, somebody is paying 0.2 Bitcoin. It should be Ajax, it should be live. Okay, all of these are live transactions going on all over the world right now. So if you're connected to the Bitcoin network, you're getting all of these transactions in your client. You can see all of this, it's no secret. But we don't know who these people are. We don't know. This is a transaction that's from we know the IP, but we don't know who these people are. It's from this address to this address for 0.2 Bitcoin. And this transaction just keeps going on. Okay, I think it is moving, but it's probably a bit slow right now. Okay, because everything is public, we can know who are the richest people in Bitcoin are. So we can see that these are the top richest, not to say people, but addresses, wallets, the richest wallets in Bitcoin. You can see that this wallet owns 50,000 Bitcoin, and this wallet owns 5,000 Bitcoin. And all this is public. If you look at the fact that the richest wallet in Bitcoin is actually storing 500,000 Bitcoin, and it's actually storing 7.5 million worth of dollars in a single. If you think about it, it is actually a single string, and it's public. The only thing that protects this wallet from being stolen is just the private key. So if you are able to hack this wallet, you can guess the private key, you are $7.5 million richer. Just by just one single string, and it's public. And also I'd like to point out the fact that every one of us can have as many addresses as we want. That means that all these people could be the same guy, we don't know. We are only seeing the wallet. And I don't know why this guy is storing everything into one single wallet. It's not really advisable to do that. Maybe he's just trying to show off that he's rich. Yeah. $7.5 million in one single string. That's pretty crazy. Okay, let's talk about mining. What is this about Bitcoin mining? We are creating money out of thin air. You just have a running computer and you can print money. But isn't that what the world is about? If you go to a gold mine, you can just mine gold. You're actually making money out of thin air as well. But to mine gold is difficult. It is the same as mining Bitcoin. It is difficult. What mining is about is actually adding transactions to the public ledger. So it is a heart of a Bitcoin system. The miners are there to make sure that transactions are processed and all that. And as a reward, they are getting the Bitcoin rewarded to them. So Bitcoin is actually confirmed transactions. If I transfer you money, who's going to verify that I'm the one signing it and I actually own the money? The network actually verifies it. The miners verifies it. So as a reward, they're getting 50 Bitcoin per block. What you're mining is that you're mining a block. Each block is worth 50 Bitcoin, and you can spend that Bitcoin any way you want. 50 Bitcoin is usually worth 750 US dollars, so that's actually a lot. But it's not easy to mine one. So just an example on miners. When Bitcoin started, people were mining with CPUs. With just CPU power, you can mine Bitcoins pretty easily, but Bitcoin actually controls the growth. So with more miners coming in, it is getting increasingly difficult to mine Bitcoin. So today, people are mining with GPUs, with FPGAs, with ASICs. ASIC, I think not yet, but probably coming soon. So this guy is building a motherboard with just 4-5 graphic cards. So I can do it with no display, and it's just doing a lot of calculation, a lot of trial and errors trying to mine Bitcoin. I used to have that as well, too, at home. And it's got, my wife's sitting over there. She's complaining that it's so loud and so hot. So I sold off my miners, but that's what I did. Some people actually build arrays of miners in their offices. I couldn't find a really big one, but But there are people who actually fill their dorms with miners is printing money, start printing money. But it can get really, really warm and pretty loud as well because of the fan. So you're actually cranking up your GPU at the maximum speed, and a lot of overclocking involved to make sure that you can squeeze out as much processing juice as possible. So what the miners did is that they're actually mining blocks, they're creating blocks. And all these blocks, when you put together, it becomes a chain. It's called a blockchain. The blockchain is actually a ledger. The ledger has been kept going on since day one, since January 3rd. And if you have a Bitcoin client connected to the network, you can see all the transactions that's going on all over the world from the last three and a half years. You can see who sent who money, from which wallet to which wallet. You can see all of that. And it's currently at 2.1 gigabyte. So if you have a new Bitcoin client and you wanna be connected to the network, you have to download this 2.1 gigabyte of transaction records. That's actually pretty huge. They're actually trying to fix this problem to compress it down so the fast transactions do not have to be sent all over the P2P network, because it can be pretty slow to download 2.1 gigabytes for new wallet. But if you're using a web-based wallet, you don't have to download all these blockchains yourself. And as I said, the growth of Bitcoin is actually controlled. So you have one block, which is equivalent to 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. But how do we make sure that is true? As always, is through cryptography. But how does it work? So what is actually a block? A block is actually a hash of all these data. So let's quickly go through them. The first one is version, the current version of the Bitcoin time. The previous hash. So you can see that over here, the hash is actually dependent on the last hash in the network. So you cannot pre-compute all these hashes first. One of the ingredients of the block is that the previous hash has to be there, and you have to compute it against that. And there's a local rule. If you want to include transactions and you want to verify transactions, you have to include that in a block, and all these are also live. So that means all the transactions that's broadcasted in the network, you can include that in your block. And the current timestamp, so this one you cannot cheat as well. The time frame allowed is about 2 hours. So you can only, if you want to cheat this one line, you can use it for about 2 hours, a single timestamp. But after that, it's not valid. So if you mine something that over 2 hours and you don't increment the timestamp, it's not going to be valid. And a target hash, we're going to talk about target hash later. And a nonce, I'm going to talk about this in the next slide. Remember that a nonce is actually a 32-bit number. So what is the target? How do we know that all these miners are actually mining something? A target is the maximum hash output. So how does that work? The point of mining is that you want to generate a hash that's lower than the target. So the higher the target is, the lower the target is, the harder it is. I made a mistake over here. Because the lower it is, the margin that you can have number that's lower than that is smaller. So in that way, you can control how hard it is for the system to mine. If there are a lot of miners, you can make it really, really difficult. If there's like only one miner, you can make it really, really easy to mine. So in that way, even if only one miner, you can still make sure that the system is running at one block every 10 minutes. If there's a lot of miners, you can make it so difficult that all of these miners all over the world are actually fighting for one block every 10 minutes. So depending on who gets lucky, who gets it. So there's a quick example. We look back at the block components table that I did just now. Let's say that we want to have a hash with the following target. Have, for example, 12 zeros in front, and then as long as the first 12 digits are zeros and the rest doesn't matter, because it just have to be lower than this. How do you make sure that this is true? Is there any way that you can do reverse hash? There's no way. The one way you can do is just keep trying. Let me go back to the table again. So all of these are already fixed. Target hash is already fixed. It's announced by the network. So there's a target, and the miner has to mine. You can only guess this number over here. So you just keep randomly guessing, and as long as you get a hash, it's an SHA 256 hash. As long as you get a hash that's lower than the target, you say, hey, I already mined it. Give me 50 Bitcoin. Give me $750. So all the miners all over the world are actually trying that. They keep trying different nodes. Everybody just keep trying. So it doesn't matter if you have a slow computer or you have a fast computer. Everybody has the same. Every single try has the same chance of getting the hash. If you have a fast GPU, you can throw the dice faster. If you have a slower GPU, you can throw the dice slower. But every single try has the same chance of getting the block. So this is what mining is about. And the difficulty of the mining is adjusted every 2 weeks. So the network is defined that it will look back at 2 weeks and see how fast the blocks are mining and then adjust for the next 2 weeks. In that case, we can always make sure that the mining is always at 1 block every 10 minutes. Doesn't matter how many miners there are or how little miners there are. Currently, the chance to find a block is this probability over here. So this, if you throw 1 dice, you do a hash, you have this amount of chance to getting a block. If you multiply it to 1, it takes a lot of tries to actually get a block. Not easy. A normal CPU will probably never ever find a block in maybe 5 years or 10 years, probably never will. If you have a GPU, probably 1 in a year or 1.5 years or something. So there's something called mining pool to actually pool all this together, and the result is split among the miners. In that way, you don't have to wait so many years to actually get a 50 Bitcoin. So once the pool gets it together, it's like all of us are mining together in one single node, and if we get it, we share it with each other. In that way, we can lower the variance a little bit. We don't have to wait for so long to actually get money out of our investment. So this is a real life graph on block generation. You can see that this is a hashing power, and this is actually the difficulty that's corrected every 2 weeks. Because here the hashing doesn't always go up, because it actually is kind of a function of Bitcoin price as well. If the price goes down, people naturally switch it off because they have to pay their electricity bill and all that. Yeah. And currently in Singapore, mining is not profitable because our electricity is not cheap. Yeah, so you can see that when the difficulty doesn't always go up. If the hashing goes down, the difficulty will actually adjust down, and it will adjust accordingly to the hashes every 2 weeks. How does the network know? What's the hashes? How many tries are there in the system? Anyone want to take a guess? Because when you try, you're not reporting anything to the network. The network doesn't know that you're trying it. How do they know? You don't have to tell them, I actually tried 5 times and I don't get it. In that way, people can actually inflate the value because they can say, I tried 1,000,000 times or I tried 0 times. How does the network know? The network knows by counting how often the blocks are discovered every. If the time is shortened to say 5 minutes, that means the difficulty has to be doubled for the last 2 weeks. So it is based on how often the block is found. In that way, we can do some math and come back with how many hashes per second. That is, you can see that currently the system is doing 15,000 gigahash per second. Yeah, actually a lot of math over there. They're actually doing so many different tries per second. I don't know, 15,000 gigahash. How many billion is that? I don't know. So in Bitcoin, cryptography is the king. There is no bank, there is no central bank, there is no authority. And I'm only covered a very few features of Bitcoin that's nicely done with the use of cryptography to enforce all these rules. And there are many other features of Bitcoin, like in terms of fraud, how to avoid double spending, and a lot of other features. all of these are tied together with cryptography. Is really probably the pinnacle of cryptography. As you read in the past in the news and all that, there are a lot of security incidents that is resulting. That's to do with Bitcoin. So I like to highlight a few over here. So Bitcoin worth 228,000. This is still far from the richest wallet. It is stolen from Linux. Okay. It is. There are a few Bitcoin businesses that are hosted on Linux that got hacked. It's not. What I would like to highlight here is that there's not a security failure of Bitcoin. It is actually due to the Linux, the dashboard. That when you log on, the dashboard is not really secure. So somebody found an exploit to go into the Linux dashboard, and you can access anybody's dashboard, and then you can just transfer the money out into your account. So this is what happened over here. And the largest exchange of Bitcoin is called Mt. Gox. It's a funny name, but it's the largest exchange of Bitcoin. They got hacked as well, and it triggers a massive sell-off. Once there's a massive sell-off, the price would drop because there's oversupply of something, then the price will drop. That's what happened with the fluctuation of the price. Whenever there's a lot of sell-off or a lot of buy, then the price would go up and down according to demand and supply. So Mt. Gox got hacked, and the price went down quite a bit to something like, I don't know, a few dollars, I think I forgot. So this is, again, another example of security failure, not really in terms of Bitcoin, but in terms of the business owner of Bitcoin. And this one, anybody knows Bitcoinica? Okay, this is the pride of Singapore. Bitcoinica is created by a 17-year-old Singapore guy. It is the largest Bitcoin, not really an exchange, but a trading tool. It allows margin trading, it allows leverage trading on Bitcoin, and is used by a lot of people in the world. And it's actually because of Bitcoinica that you can see that there's a flat line somewhere from mid last year to mid this year. That is a flat. Bitcoin was trading at $5 USD per Bitcoin, almost flat. It's because of this tool. People are doing leverage trading, so whenever the price go up, people sell, and when the price go down, people buy. So because of all this automated trading, the price almost stays flat. He made a lot of money. He could have decided in about 4 days, that's what he said. Yeah, he's a really smart kid. And he made millions. He made so much money out of it. And he actually sold off the site already. So this hack happened after he sold off the site. Bitcoinica was hacked for 460,000 worth of Bitcoin. All these people are actually depositing Bitcoin in the site, cannot claim back the Bitcoin, and they're actually suing the site. I'm not sure if the guy's name is Zhou Tong. I'm not sure if he's going to get into trouble. I hope not. So they're filing it in San Francisco, but I'm not sure how well it stands in court as well, because Bitcoin is generally not recognized as a currency yet by the law. So is Bitcoin really safe? Bitcoin's code is available on GitHub. Anybody can go and fork, and you can download the code and you can look at the source code. In fact, there are other forks of Bitcoin as well. There are Xcoin and there are Namecoins and other forks. So they change certain properties of Bitcoin. For example, Bitcoin is generated at every 10 minutes. Somebody created a fork of Bitcoin that generates block at every 30 seconds, I think, so that transactions are confirmed faster. So if you go to a shop, you don't have to wait 10 minutes for the transaction to be approved. So there are a lot of forks on Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is still the biggest one. And the value is still the most stable one. And you can hack if you want. All the codes are available. If you can break the cryptography, since you know everything, if you can break the cryptography, the reward is 140 million. That is the worth of Bitcoin economy right now. So the Bitcoin economy, all this Bitcoin together times by the current rate is actually worth 140 million. So if you are able to hack this one, it's worth 140 million. It's a lot of money. In that, you can decide if Bitcoin is safe or not. So back to this one, Bitcoin versus bank. In bank, you have to trust your bank. on your internet security or how the bank is handling it, or if the bank will go away someday. In Bitcoin, you don't have to trust anyone. You don't have to trust all these businesses. In fact, you are advised not to trust anyone in Bitcoin. You are advised not to store your Bitcoin in any single website. You host your own client, encrypt your own wallet, store it safely, duplicate multiple times, and encrypt it safely, so that it will not be lost. You are encouraged not to trust anyone. And Bitcoin is open source, so you know that things are safe. And bank is closed source. It's proven and known security. With all these white papers and all these explanations going on about Bitcoin, and it's still not hacked. A bank, you don't know if it's secure or not. You can't phish a Bitcoin. Like for example, I give away my public wallet. If you try to phish me, you try to trick me into giving up my private code, I can't. I don't even know my private code. It's stored in the wallet. I don't even remember it. So it's not prone to phishing. Whereas bank, there are people who are prone to phishing. So these are some of the comparisons in terms of security, Bitcoin versus bank. And that's conclude my talk.
Yes.
Yeah, any questions?
Yes, I'd like to ask if, like you say, like people can mine their Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they spend like electricity and like they buy computers.
Yep.
They spend their time.
Yep.
What's the real value of the block mining? What's the gift to the economy, like external economy? Like you know, like
Yep.
you would say like Singapore, like or like other countries, they can trade something, you buy it and sell the goods, right?
Yep.
What the Bitcoin does that they exchange for the dollar?
There are a lot of businesses that already accept Bitcoin. You can buy hosting. There are a lot of hosting services that have Bitcoin. And there is a underground eBay, which is known as the Silk Road. I'm not sure it's quite, Bitcoin people usually don't really like to mention it, but I just sort of mention it. It's like an underground eBay where you can buy drugs, you can buy ammunitions and all that. It's a Bitcoin. So there are trading going on in Bitcoin. And it's not just an illegal one, there are illegal ones as well. There are gambling sites, if you consider that legal. You can buy servers, you can do a lot of things. You can hire developers paying with Bitcoin as well. There are a lot of people advertising on their services on Bitcoin. And then to go back to your other question,
yeah, but I mean like
on the economic value, right?
what's the meaning of the blocks, right? How the block is, if you can like reverse the hash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like who will be using that data?
Okay, if there are some arguments that people are wasting resources, especially electricity resources and computing resources to calculating all this nonsense, right? Yeah, you're wasting resources, right?
Yes.
For example, if you look at SETI at home and you look at the untangling of protein molecules and all that, this, and then some people will deduce that it's actually wasting of resources when you do Bitcoin. But if you look at it in a different way, you are changing the world's economy. By contributing your electricity, your computing resources, you are helping to change the world. You are helping to change the world's currency system, the economy, and all that. So it's actually a good thing in a way.
But the Bitcoin, right? Like it's not like you do not produce like a tangible stuff. Actually, you have something to change the tangible, right? I think it may like negatively affect the economy because you get the money, but you don't produce the stuff.
Is money tangible? Is my $50 in my wallet is just made of paper? Is that tangible?
But
It's
then,
just paper. It only worth like 50 cents.
The point is like you're actually wasting a lot of natural resources that need more stars.
Sorry?
Well, the point is like it's a wastage of natural resources like electricity, which are even more scarce than money or Bitcoin or anything. So it's like normal money is something which you do some work, you create something, maybe you create cars, you create something which is usable, and you get money for that.
Yep.
Here you are actually spending a lot of electricity and everything and just getting a virtual money.
In Bitcoin, if you want to make Bitcoin, you want to earn Bitcoin, it is advised and it is always wise that actually you do some work in exchange for it. If you mine, it's actually not profitable in a lot of places in the world. So in that way, Bitcoin has become a currency that people pay for in exchange for something. It's not because you mine that you get rewarded for nothing for wasting your resources. is because all these miners, they are kind of contributing their resources to this network that they're getting certain reward over it. Currently, it is still wise to do something to exchange for it, because that's the best way that you can earn Bitcoin. If you mine, you're actually losing money in Singapore. Yeah.
Okay. I can kind of intuit how the network sums the amount of discoveries of blocks to see how many people are making Bitcoins.
Yep.
And it's quite clear how you raise the bar or literally lower the bar to make it more difficult to produce Bitcoins.
Yep.
But what I can't see between these two things is how do you get in a peer-to-peer way, okay, with the central authority it's trivial, but in a peer-to-peer situation, how do you get from the measure of the number of people making Bitcoins to the lowered or raised threshold, depending on how you look at it?
Okay, I understand the question. I did not cover it in my slide. Currently, Bitcoin network works by like a normal torrent system, and it uses actually, at the back, it actually uses IRC to discover nodes. So when you connect to a Bitcoin client, it actually connects to the IRC server. It helps to discover nodes out of it, but it's not necessary. It does not necessarily has to be IRC, but it's one of the ways to discover nodes. So once you discover nodes, you connect to a few nodes, and it helps spreading to more nodes. So you can, when you have a Bitcoin client, you can see how many nodes they're connected to, and with all this in the connector network, we have a Bitcoin network. And how do they come to a collective conclusion on the difficulty and on validity of blocks and all that? It is actually determined by majority. So Satoshi has come up with this rule to determine how valid the block is, and it has to be agreed by more than half of the miners. So when there's a change in difficulty, the more than half will agree and the rest will accept it. And it is determined solely by the rules. There's no super node and there's no authority. So in that way, if you are able to control more than half of the computing power of Bitcoin, you can change the rule. But currently, it is too expensive to do that because of all the gigahashes that you're looking at. It's almost impossible. You know, with supercomputers, you can probably only achieve about 10% of it.
So in the event of a trigger sell-off in Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
What happens is that you're going to get the value of it fall.
Yep.
How does, in the case, I probably am still trying to figure this out. How does a peer-to-peer network able to? I mean, the central one, you know, the central one, you just shut down the trading and then everything stops in terms of the massive sell-off. But in the case of peer-to-peer, how does it actually negate that type of event happening? Is it that everybody has to shut down their Bitcoin?
You can, okay. In terms of trading and mining of Bitcoin, Bitcoin network and trading is actually two separate things.
No, yeah. Let's just talk about the trading. The
Okay.
mining one, I understand.
Let's talk about trading. Trading is actually done outside of Bitcoin network. You want to get, for example, my car key. You pay something for me, we exchange. We don't have to tell my car manufacturer that I'm exchanging hand. So in that way, Bitcoin works the same. So when you pay somebody to me, I give you Bitcoin, it's actually outside of the economy. We are just exchanging through the Bitcoin economy, through the Bitcoin network. I'm telling the network that I'm passing this amount of Bitcoin to you, and they're paying this amount of money to me. And all these are happen outside of the Bitcoin network. It doesn't have to be on Mt. Gox as well. It can be on any exchange. There are a lot of exchanges in the world, and you can start one if you want today. You don't have to register anyone. Yeah.
Does the trading affect the unit price?
Sorry?
Doesn't the trading affect the unit price for Bitcoin?
Sorry?
Doesn't. If you trade, if you go outside the system,
Okay.
doesn't it affect the unit price?
Tracks?
The unit price. The
Yeah,
unit
the
price.
price affects the price.
Okay, yeah, correct.
The scenario you've got is that let's look at the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. Most consumers were affected by two levels of protection. One is that speculation is set up in the markets. The growth of trading markets around the world meant that the NASDAQ can go, the S&P can go, the Australian markets can go. There are independent speculations you can impact.
Yep.
The next level of protection is the actual currency protection of that currency, so you can actually balance that currency fluctuation as well. There's a peer-to-peer network, which you're saying, I don't totally understand it. You're looking at speculation impact the unit price in the whole world. This means that if speculation goes against everyone loses money in hours.
But it is a supply and demand. So if you speculate against it, you're gonna sell off. Somebody will see that it's worth it and they will buy it back. It's actually a supply and demand economics, right? Yeah, correct. So if you, the layers are artificial. It's like somebody finds that it's worth it and they will buy it, and somebody finds that it's not and they will sell it. Right?
I think the underlying assumption.
There's no liquidity in the Bitcoin market. There's no entity standing behind to back the value of the Bitcoin. It's all perceived value. You know, if I want to sell it at $10, you'll buy it at $10. That's the price. That's the point. This is not real currency.
But the underlying assumption seems to be that the market.
Yeah, no, of course. If nobody buys it, it's worth zero tomorrow. It's a perceived value.
You can go ahead.
The underlying assumption seems to be that there's an efficient market behind it, but based on this notion that you actually moderate the amount that is issued by the number of declarations that is made, that's the number of nodes in a connected graph. It's not necessarily efficient because I can create a botnet and grab 200,000 computers and then affect the rates that come out.
If you have more miners, you are actually fighting against other miners to get the 10, 50 bitcoins every
But I
second.
can hit the quorum though.
You can what?
I can hit the quorum.
The 50%?
Yeah.
It's not easy to hit that. Currently, there's nobody in the world.
Even with botnet, it's hard because
not
there are
easy
people
to hit that.
using hardware exploitation stuff to do it.
It's a lot of computing power that's needed to do that, and there is no benefit for you. Even if you are able to hit that, there is no benefit for you to actually disrupt the economy, because if you disrupt it, the Bitcoin price is going to go down, and whatever you get is going to be worthless, kind of worthless. Yeah. But
those theft cases, if the bitcoins are transferred out of those accounts, those victim accounts.
Yep.
But you said you can actually track where the money goes to.
Yep. Which wallet?
So everybody can see those are the thieves, right?
Yep. Correct. Exactly. That's what happened in the Mt. Gox case. So because they are the actual exchange, they can see where the monies go to. They trigger the massive sell-off, and they can see where the monies go to. They are able to put a stop, and then whatever the money is left in their account, they are able to transfer it back to the owner. You can kind of see where the wallet goes to. So in that way, that's why I say that anonymous, there's an asterisk on top. You can see where the monies go to. If you do a lot of analysis, you can see that a certain person is owning all these numbers. You can kind of see that.
So what happens? People blacklist those wallets or what?
No, you can't blacklist Bitcoin. If it's already transferred, it's gone. There's no chargeback. You can't charge back a Bitcoin, unlike a credit card.
But do they have like a blacklist where you say these are fraudulent wallets, you don't want to transact with them ever again?
No. Okay. There's no such concept.
So you can just get away with it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. If I steal your $50, I can spend it in Lavasat. Nobody will know I get from you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is like cash. It is like cash.
Except without the security.
Okay.
So the transactions show Bitcoin against Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
How is the price against dollars? Say $12 for Bitcoin. How is that discovered in the transactions of Bitcoin?
Okay. When we exchange Bitcoin, it is done through the network. We have to go through the peer-to-peer network to tell everybody that I've sent you something, right? Whereas when you buy Bitcoin or sell Bitcoin through an exchange, it is done outside of the network. You want to buy something from me, you just pass me money and pass something to you. You know?
$12 for Bitcoin.
That is according to demand and supply. That's according to demand and supply. If you think Bitcoin is worth $20 and you can say that I want to pay $20, and people are willing to sell it at $15, so you can get it at $15.
So that price is only for the exchange.
That is the largest exchange. It is accountable for about more than 90% of the exchanges in the world, Bitcoin exchanges in the world. It would, okay, if you think about it, the other exchanges are independent of this one, right? Because there's no governing body. But if the other exchanges are selling Bitcoin cheaper, you would buy from there and sell here, right? If it's selling more expensive, you would buy from here and sell there. So in a way, it would all level out, right? If that store is selling Apple cheaper, you would buy from there, you wouldn't buy from me. So I would have to lower my Apple prices, right? Yeah, it's a normal economy rule over here that's governing this exchange. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, you can.
Okay, so who will produce the Bitcoin tool? I mean, how can we prevent another Bitcoin become?
I'm sorry, who invented the Bitcoin tool?
Yeah, who write the Bitcoin tool, the official Bitcoin tool?
Okay, the Bitcoin tool was started by Satoshi Nakamoto, and then now it's maintained by a group of contributors. It's like any open source projects in the world. You can be a contributor if you want. So you can write code and submit a pull request, and if they like it, they will pull it. But usually, they don't really change the underlying rule of Bitcoin. Usually, the code are only changing on the client side with a better UI, with more data available to the client and all that. Usually, the rule don't really change that easily. They'll have to go through some voting to the core members of Bitcoin, which you can be one, anybody can be one. It's like any other open source project. You can be a contributor to Linux as well. It is a completely open source project. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
How do you store your private key?
Your private key is stored encrypted in your wallet, in your client. So if you download the client, you can say that I want to create a wallet, and Bitcoin wallet address. You can create as many as you want. They will show you the public. They will show you the public key, and the private key is actually stored in your hard disk. So you should back up that one.
So how do you make sure the private key is set from hacker outside and trying to hack your computer?
It's just a string. You can store it anywhere. I'm sorry I have to cut it off because we have to move on to the next one. So if there are any other questions, we'll talk about that later. All right? Okay. Thank you.